Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. We're sure glad to see you today. We've got some special screwdrivers we never had before. Champion brand, over 100 years old, that have got some special features you don't see in screwdrivers today. So we're going to tell you all about them and do a restoration. Let's get on down to the shop and get to work.
I recently showed you a batch of a bunch of screwdrivers I had bought together. Went through them all, and there were a whole bunch of Champion screwdrivers. And Magdad said he was interested in those as he was collecting them, so I bundled up 5 or 6 of them, can't remember how many, and shipped them to him. And saved this one for my collection, since I don't own a Champion screwdriver. You can see it's got the name very clear on there, if I can get this to focus. Very clear on there, Champion. Made in USA. Nice screwdriver. I can see why he likes to collect them. And this one is not in terrible shape. It's got a lot of, wear on it from usage. And it's got an unusual ferrule. Looks like it's 2 pieces that are merged together. But the tip on this one has been filed down, narrowed down, evidently to get in a thin slot on a screw. Now, what decent guy in the world doesn't own more than one screwdriver, that he has to take a perfectly good screwdriver and file the tip down so he can get into a screw? I mean, I've got screwdrivers. Even before I started collecting, I had 30 or 40 screwdrivers. Over the years, you collect a lot of them. And surely he would have had something where he wouldn't have had to damage it. But whoever it was did it. In addition, I found this one. I didn't even realize that it's got to be a Champion. If you look at them side by side, it just looks like a miniature of this one. The same exact ferrule, a 2-piece pressed together. The same exact work on the wood part of the handle. Exactly the same. There were grooves in here, but they've just really been worn down with years of use. It's just worn smooth. You can feel it, but you can't see much of it. You can see a little. And it's in pretty good shape. It's got a long tip on it, which is sort of unusual the way that's made. And it looks like it could be a handy little screwdriver, because quite often I have to get into small areas like that. And that's a nice size to have. And it's really got to be a Champion too. It doesn't have a name on it like this one at all. And all the Champions had a name on the shank. So, but it's got to be. So I'm going to go ahead today and get both these up to date. They're not in terrible shape, just pitted and old, and like I said, filed on the tip and the wood worn down. So we're going to get them looking nice. So that's my goal today. Here are some Sears catalog pages. The top one is from 1897, showing the original Champion with the 2-piece strong ferrule, and explaining how strong the blade is and that it will not turn or move. The bottom catalog pages are from 1908, showing 2 different versions. The Champion screwdriver with all the same warranties and high strengths, but with a different 1-piece ferrule, stating it will not turn or pull out or develop any imperfections, fully warranted. The bottom one seems to be a copy of the Champion, and it calls it Champion pattern, but again lists the high strength of the screwdriver and the fact that it is fully warranted against any problems with the shank or the ferrule. So here we are after wire brushing, and as you can always see, it exposes a lot more when you get the light patina off of here. The name showing up nice. but the tip, you can definitely tell how it's been ground. So we got to reprofile that and get that smoothed out. Same thing on the little one, just light pitting and marking on it. We need to get that cleaned off to get it looking nice, and then of course we got to do a lot of work on the handles. Well, I got the handles sanded on these Champion screwdrivers, and there was some staining on them that I couldn't seem to get through with the sanding, so I used the method on them that I used on the Crescent screwdrivers a few months ago, and it worked very well, something I just did by trial and error, and it was I used vinegar to get the staining out. So what I do is I completely wet the handles with the vinegar, and then I wrap them in a wet paper towel that's been soaked in vinegar and leave them to soak. Don't remember how long I did it last time. I don't, but I'm going to leave it a couple of hours down here to soak in the vinegar, and see if I can't get the staining out of them. It worked before, it should work this time, so I'll be back later to see how it's progressing. Well, here's a look at the screwdrivers after the vinegar treatment for the stains. The larger one really came out a lot better. Cleaned a lot of the staining off. There's a few little marks, but I'm going to restain this handle anyway. There is a darkened area here. I've just sanded on it, and it doesn't seem to be lightening up, so I may give that another little treatment, see what happens. But overall, I'm pleased with how it turned out. I wasn't really careful with the vinegar, and I got some on the ferrule and the shank, and you can see the the vinegar did its thing, so I'll have to wire brush these again, but they're still need to be sanded. Same thing on the smaller one, except that there are some darkened areas on here that may not lighten up, but it's much, much lighter. This was completely dark in the middle here. And again, got vinegar on it. So plus, you know, there's a lot of pitting on this one. Look at the tip. It's got pretty severe pitting. So we're going to have to definitely do some sanding on this, so that's next. Let me take you back to the beginning. This is how the Champion screwdrivers looked when I received them. The wood was well worn on all of them. In fact, this one was worn so much that the handle was completely worn smooth. And the steel was pitted and darkened, needing some work. And the shaft and the ferrule. And let me show you what I did to get them up to standard. Here's the large one compared to what we had originally. And I think we accomplished our purpose to really give it a good look. The handle, filed down and sanded down these grooves on here to accentuate the grooves a lot better. You can feel them now and see them. And completely sanded down the handle. Gave it a nice gunstock stain and put a lacquer finish on top to give it some shine. The original one was done that way. It said it was a shiny handle. And the shaft of it themselves, I wish more manufacturers would take a look at these and take a hint. Look how that name is stamped in here. Just so clear and so nice. Champion, made in USA on the side, and then Champion. Really was meant to last a long time, and it has lasted. It survived all the work I did to get this smoothed down, to get the tip reprofiled. If you remember, it was really filed down on the end to fit a narrow slot of some type, and we got that straightened out. The ferrule itself, this ferrule seems to be an all steel top and bottom on it. So along the way, and the earlier, and I've got the other one I've got's got a brass top and a steel bottom. I don't know why the difference there, but this one was the two-piece, and that they were so proud of being so strong, made that way. It came out just terrific looking. And the small one, of course, I mentioned the handle on it was pretty smoothed out. Wasn't much left there as far as the ridges on it. But it's okay. It's still a pretty looking tool. The wood came out nice. It had some dark staining on it. With removing the staining, that seemed to not completely go away when I put the new coat of stain on it. The ferrule is very unusual in that this is brass here and steel on the end, the two different sections, and whereas the other one was all steel. I don't know if they ever made an all brass one or not. They just happened to be the two that I had. I sent my others off, so maybe Magdad can check his out and find out what he's got. Tip was smoothed out. There was a lot of pitting on this tip, but again, they turned out just terrific. Some nice additions to my screwdriver collections. And now for comparison, I'm going to bring up another set. Here are some screwdrivers I did earlier. Crescent. And I had a small and large one in the crescent. So for comparison, very similar looking. The handle was different because this handle had that embossing in there rather than the ridges on it. And the ferrule itself had a knurling on the end, which was nice, something different. And this one was labeled well too. It was labeled here on the ferrule with the crescent name. So I got the large and the small one in the new Champion, the large and the small one in the crescent. So nice additions to my collections lately of screwdrivers. I always enjoy working on them, the wood and steel, and in this case, wood, steel, and brass together. So I found out a few things along the way and shared the history and showed you the restoration. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed working on the tools. Thanks for watching.